Alright, this video is for anybody who's thinking of replacing this piston spring on an A300, a Beretta A300. This one was off the Beretta A391 Xtrema. So most A300s have kind of the same piston spring setup. These are not recommended to be removed, but we had to Cerakote the whole barrel, so the one thing we wanted to do was rip this spring assembly out so that we could, Cerakote where it's attached to the barrel and everything. So you can just get that to start loosening. You got to be very careful once this nut does clear the threads. It's kind of like a strut on a car. It just wants to kind of like explode. So make sure you're very careful with that. Definitely wear eye protection. Maybe back it up in something like this. I just want to show you guys this because the hardest part is getting this back together, and it almost seems, completely impossible. But I was able to get it. I took the washer on the bottom, the spring, and then the nut here, and I mocked it up in the vise. I had the vise actually quite a ways out. That spring is probably, actually about that much longer when it's open. It's a very hard spring to compress. So once you get everything mocked up in the vise and somewhat lined up, just, start turning this in slowly and getting it so that this nut will mate up with your threads on the part of the barrel or the piston assembly that's attached to the barrel. And once you get that, you don't want to push it into the thread. You just want it lightly, compressed up against the threads. And then what I started doing was just grabbing on the spring assembly and the nut and started trying to turn that. And what ended up happening was the washer here, the spring, and the nut, they all three started turning actually pretty easy by hand. And I was able to basically keep turning that. The barrel will kind of swivel and lock up against the jaws, so I would make sure to put some tape on like I did and do these plastic jaws or soft jaws of some sort. And it was basically, these are a hard plastic jaw, but it was able to let that nut spin, so I could just keep spinning that and tighten it. I'd loosen it, and then the nut would start pulling away from the thread, so I know it didn't engage the threads. So I tighten it just a little bit more, and then I'd start spinning it and tighten it and spin it. And then eventually, I could see the threads starting to eliminate, and I slowly backed this handle off and just started seeing if that nut would start separating from the threads, and it didn't. So I turned it in a few more turns just to make sure it was grabbing it real well. And then once I had it completely locked down, I brought it out here. And then I was able to kind of stand it up, and then I just took it and threaded it on the rest of the way till it basically seated right up against the metal part that's attached to the barrel. And I took, just a channel locks, basically that tool to tighten it the rest of the way so it was nice and solid there. And there's two little indents on that metal, and then I took a center punch and I just peened it in there on that side and then on this side, and then that locks it from ever unthreading when the customer has it. So yeah, kind of a dangerous thing to tear apart, but once you get it apart, it seems like I'm never going to get this thing back together, but that is a really good way to do it. It went together really nice, and it's a nice professional Cerakote job and should be good to go for the customer. So if you guys have any other questions, let me know. Thanks for watching.